Hey there, Linux fans. So after my last video where I showed how to upgrade CentOS 8 to Alma Linux, got a lot of good feedback on that, and people were pretty impressed with it. But I also got the question, why not try Oracle Linux? I mean, I did explain that I'm not really into doing anything Oracle, mainly because they're a big corporation, and we ended up on the same boat that we ended up under CentOS, where they could just decide to change the model or start charging, or who knows what they will do. So we got to be careful. But the way it's working is, I think even if you do go with Alma Linux, or you go with CentOS Linux, or you go with Oracle Linux, there'll be scripts to port to the other version. So that's good. So I thought, let's give Oracle Linux a try. So I went ahead and read up on it, and they had a simple script that you can download with wget and run the script just like Alma. As a matter of fact, the install was almost identical. So I went ahead and did the update, and it took about 45 minutes, so it seemed a little faster, and the package count was a little smaller. Oh, and just for the record, I used the same CentOS Linux box that I did with Alma, exact same config. I actually just rolled back the VM to an earlier snapshot, the snapshot I took just before I did the Alma Linux. And also for the record, the virtual environment that I'm using is VMware. That's what we work with at my work, so I wanted to make sure that the environment mimicked something that we do at work. And so I had to go with VMware. Okay, it seems I actually lost the footage of me rebooting and exploring Oracle Linux, so I'm going to redo it unscripted and off the cuff. So I'm running it on my Proxmox server, and I mentioned that I was doing it on VMware, but I'm not doing it on VMware. I don't know why I thought I was doing it on VMware, but probably because a lot of times that's where I do things. So this is on Proxmox, and it's a system with 1 CPU and 4 gigs of RAM, and it's the exact same system that I did the other install on, so it's not any different. So we'll go ahead and hit start. We'll see from boot up. In the last video I mentioned that Alma Linux seemed to boot up slow. Took a long time to get to the login prompt. Well, after I rolled back to CentOS Linux, I did a reboot just to see, and it was just as slow as CentOS. So it's something I probably have configured in the default config that I probably need to turn off. Maybe I have DHCP configured or something, and then it's hanging on that. Install looks pretty much the same. I'm going to go full screen here. When you're trying to test something and you're waiting through a boot up screen like this, it's painful. But I didn't notice any difference in speed or anything when it came to this part of the boot up. Okay, so we're at the login screen. That probably took about, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. So we'll go ahead and log in. This is Oracle Linux. As you can see down at the bottom, it's got the Oracle logo. And here's our first look. Well, technically second. And this is what confused me on Alma, was it was slow on logging in, but when I rolled back to CentOS, I noticed it was doing the same thing, so I probably have something configured incorrectly for that, but I'm not worried about that too much, so I won't ding it for that. But here is where the problem I ran into before. The video drivers are borked, and I don't know how to fix it. Matter of fact, the mouse isn't working. I'm not sure what's going on. Let's give it a second. I was able to log into it before, and now I don't seem to be. Let's see what the Proxmox is telling us under summary. CPU usage is at 100%. Now it's down to 42. So it's actually still going. 104%. Maybe this needs more than one core. Where the Alma Linux didn't seem to. I don't know why Oracle Linux would need more than one core for just testing like this with no services running. But now it's down to 13%, so maybe we can see if we can get in there. No, it's still borked. I wonder if we can send Control Alt and then a backspace. Control Alt backspace. Oh wait, that was delete. No, I can't get out of it. Let's try a reboot with another core. Boink. Okay, that was probably not the best thing to do, but there was obviously something going in there, and to hit 104% of CPU is crazy. And the reason why we can get over 100% is because virtual machine managers like this will let you peg out the CPU a little bit, but it won't go too high. Okay, so let's change the hardware again. Hardware. Processors, edit. 2, 3, 4. So now we got 4 processors. I think the memory's fine. And we can hit start again. I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but it's starting. Then we'll go to console, full screen, and there's our boot screen. Close that little thing. Hopefully this will make a difference. It could have been the slowdown that I was seeing before in the video issues. Could have been the CPU, so this might fix it. But that also leads you to think, well, why did Alma Linux not have these issues? Why didn't Centos Linux have these issues? It's the same GNOME desktop environment, and technically it should have just worked. And I didn't see CPU usages hitting over 100, even coming close to 100%, except for one spike on initial boot, and that can happen when it's searching for hardware. So let's see what happens. I think this video is going to be a little longer than the last one. Okay, let's see if we can log in, and it's Oracle, so type in your super secret password. Now, if this clears up the video issues, then it's a viable alternative to CentOS, but I still don't like the fact that it was pegging the CPU. It tells me that Oracle Linux might be running something in the background that you don't normally see on boot up with CentOS Linux or even Alma Linux, and that kind of bothers me, mostly because I don't trust companies like Oracle. I'm not one of those big super privacy advocate guys, but yeah, look, it's still acting frozen. The mouse, that little mouse is me, is, you know, my native mouse, but that one should be moving too, and it's not. So I can't even get it to boot up. That's not good. Let me see if I can find, it's in my project folder. It's called Exploring. So we're gonna go ahead and look at this video here. I recorded, and I was trying to play around with making sure I had the guest stuff installed, but it was already installed, so that we'll skip past. And I installed HTOP. So as you can see, the CPU usage was fine on HTOP. And then, so this, I think, was a reboot. So like I said, the video I have of this was not that very good. Yeah, it's Oracle Linux. So I changed the resolution to 1080p, and that's when things just went nuts. See how now the screen's broken? But I could keep the changes. I mean, I didn't lose control. Oh wait, maybe I did. I think it locked up here. I kind of recall that happening. Yeah, and I had to go out, and I went to my CentOS 8 workstation to see if it supported 1080p in a VM, and it does. So that's my workstation. This is what I use for work. I don't use the GUI, I mostly use the shell. But I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a VM environment issue. And so that's 1080p on that one, and that's a CentOS 8. So I know that the VM environment supports CentOS 8 at 1080p. So let's see where we can go from here. Where does it go? Okay, so it's still hung. So that's kind of what we were seeing. And that might be why it's hanging. I might still be stuck in 1080p mode and it just absolutely hated it. So there's something really weird going on with this. And because it wasn't such a simple drop-in replacement, I don't feel comfortable recommending that at all for anybody. Now, Oracle might be great installed fresh. So I'm not saying Oracle is not a good solution for an enterprise Linux install. Maybe as a fresh install, it would be wonderful. And if you have the money to pay for the support contracts, Oracle does give really good support. I've had experience with them in the past, and I've never had any problem with their support. Long time ago in the past, not probably in the last 15 years. So I really can't even say whether I like them or not now because it's been so long. But Oracle upgrading from CentOS 8, a working CentOS 8, to Oracle Linux, I had problems. And the film that I lost showed even more issues even before I changed the screen resolution. And there was even issues with just installing packages using DNF, that it just was like really slow. It's almost like they don't have that many mirrors for their package repositories, and so wherever they are compared to me, which I'm going to assume they're in Silicon Valley, but I don't really know. Assuming is, how we get in trouble. But that just installing simple packages was difficult. So overall, my opinion is still leaning towards Alma Linux because the install or the conversion went so smooth, and I was happy with that. I'm still looking forward to a version of Rocky Linux coming out at the end of April, and it just may be what we choose to go with. It's hard to tell at this point, but we've been waiting too long as it is, and Alma Linux is just stable and works for what we need to do. Now, everybody's environment is different, so you may find that Alma Linux won't work for you. It's going to take more research, but I'm still leaning towards Alma. And on that note, I would like to say thank you for watching this video, and I hope you're staying safe out there. And please hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, you can hit the thumbs down. If you didn't like the video, please tell me why, so I can try to make things better for you guys. I'm doing this for you and for me because it's fun. So anyways, I hope you have a great one. Thanks. Bye.